welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today I'm going to be creating 3 projects with these new All Hearts Come Home dies from Spellbinders. And the first one I'm going to create, I'm going to use the dies as they were intended to become a whole card front. And the other 2 projects, we're going to stretch the dies a bit so that we can see other things that we can make using them, and hopefully that will give you some ideas for stretching your dies at home as well. So this is a really cool die set. You've got this main piece that has the main scene on it, and that piece cuts out like this. Then you've got the house. You've got this, which I think is a really useful die because you can use that with lots of different sentiments. But it also has the All Hearts Come Home bit that can go in it. And then it's these ones say for Christmas. So we'll be using all of those dies on this first card. So I've chosen a pool party card blank, that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 for my card base. And I'm going to glue this onto the front of it. I mean, even if you only just use this set as it was intended as like a card front, you could make these cards in a whole heap of different colours and things, and you'd get a load of cards that look really different anyway. But I want to show you a few different things that I want to do with them. I think it's nice to make it as it was intended first, because I think that gives you ideas then as you're using it to stretch your stash afterwards. Because it's nice to see how the dies cut and fit together as well. So I'm going to line this up so that the bottom of the die is at the bottom of the card and the sides of the die line up with the sides of the card. And then from there I can just press everything down. And then I want the bottom of the card to follow these lines. So I'm just going to trim round that corner so that my card base now follows that line. And then I've cut this card front in a few different colours so that I've got pieces that I can slot in. So I've cut it in garden green and poppy parade and gold foil sheet, all the colours of cardstock that I'm using today from Stampin' Up. And I'm just going to pop those bits into here. So I'm just inlaying these pieces to make up a scene. So then I want to pop this up on foam pads. I've cut this off to gold foil sheet. I want to pop it up on foam pads, but I want to stick in all these tiny pieces. So I want to make sure that the foam pads cover all of the little gaps so that I can stick all those pieces in afterwards. So I'm going to line those up. You could also do this if you've got like foam adhesive sheets that are bigger. You could do that with those as well. I just want to line them up and just make sure that they cover the back of it. I'm just going to make sure you can't see any of those from the front. So then I'm going to peel those off the back and just stick it onto the card. And then I'm going to start sticking all these pieces in. So I'm going to stick the red bit in there. I'm going to stick grey in around the frame to kind of tie it into the background. And then you can see most of these red bits are still in the red piece, so I'm just pushing them through onto the gold house. So then I've cut these 2 dies together to make this red All Hearts Come Home banner. And I've just used this one for the gold, so I'm going to glue that behind it. And then I can put it across the top of my card. So I'm going to glue that across the top of my card. Then I'm going to glue this for Christmas at the bottom. And I'm actually just going to kind of dab this into a bit of glue. by just dabbing it in like that, and less likely to get mess everywhere. And then I can just wipe that off my mat. And then I was toying with whether to put some extra gems down there, but I've decided not to. But if you prefer to kind of like make it even more full on, then you could absolutely put gems everywhere as well. But I think I'm happy with how it is. So there's my card complete. So then for my second card, I'm going to use bits and pieces from the die set. So I've got 3.5 by 8.5 inch card blank, and this piece of white cardstock measures 8.5 inches as well, and I'm just going to create some snow hills from it, and then I can glue that along the bottom of my card. And then I've got this garden green frame, which actually I cut for the last card because I used the green bits out of it for that. So I'm just going to snip it out here. Then I'm going to snip it out down the sides as well. And I'm going to do that on the other side too. So this is a really good way of extending your dies. You can just find different ways of cutting them about so that you can create different types of cards with it. So then I'm going to glue those onto here. So then I've got all these pieces here that I've cut to decorate it with. So I've got these pieces of evening evergreen to fill the trees with. And then I've cut these hearts in red and the other pieces in gold to fill those in. So then I've got these 3 houses that I've cut out of white that I'm going to space along the card. And then I'm going to start filling these in as well. So I've got some red hearts to go in the middle. So then I'm going to put red bits on the doors as well. So I'm just filling in the squares. And then I've got these ones which I've cut from crumb cake cardstock, and I've tried to leave as much of this in as possible to make the next job as quick as possible. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue into all these gaps. And you need to make sure you do get in all of them because otherwise some bits won't stick. And then I'm going to pop this over the top, being sure to line it up nicely. And then I can just push through all of these bits that are still in there. Obviously this would be a lot more difficult picking them up individually and trying to find out where they go. So the more that you can get that kind of stick in the die cut, the better. So then you can see most of those bits are in there, and then I just need to add in these couple of bits that have fallen out. So I'm going to do the same with both the other ones. And then I've cut this Happy Holidays sentiment in red. This is the classic Happy Holidays sentiment from Spellbinders, and I'm just going to glue this down here. And then these houses that I've used all the bits out of, but I've not used the houses, I can obviously use for another card. And I could actually do a very similar card and swap them over so that I had the brown houses with the white bits inside. So I've still got all the white bits left from the white houses. And to finish off, I've just got a couple of small red gems. I'm just going to glue over the door handles. I'm not going to do it on the centre one because the Happy Holidays is kind of covering that a bit. These are just unbranded red gems that you stick on yourself. They tend to be a bit cheaper than the ones with adhesive already on the back. And because I use quite a lot of the red, then that's the best way for me to buy them. And there's my card finished. So then for my final project, I'm going to make a small box. So I've got a 6 1/4 by 3 3/4 inch piece of cardstock. And on the long side, I'm going to score it at 3/8 of an inch, then at 1 1/4, at 2 1/2, at 3 3/4, at 5, and then at 5 7/8 inches. And I'm going to turn it round, and then I'm going to score it at 1 1/4 and 2 1/2 inches on that side. So I'm just folding all the score lines. You might notice I've got an extra one here where I misscored, so what I've told you is the right score lines, but I scored an extra one by accident. So then I'm going to look for this centre square, and I'm going to cut just a small amount, maybe about 1/4 of an inch away from that, and then I'm going to cut all the way up here to the edge of that centre square. That's just going to form this little flap, which I can just cut the corners off up to that score line. And I'm going to do that on the other side too. So I'm cutting just away from the square, cutting all the way up, and then cutting this little flap off. This is going to create a really small little box that might be nice for some jewellery. You can see I'm doing exactly the same on the other side. Or for chocolate or a wax melt or something, just a small gift. And I think if you package a small gift nicely, it just means so much more. I'm just doing exactly the same on this side and cutting the little pieces off the sides. It actually makes a nice little kind of table favour then as well for Christmas. If you put one of these in each person's place with like a chocolate or something like that in it, I think that's really lovely as a table favour. So then I'm going to grab my double-sided tape and I'm going to pop that on here. I'm putting it on all 4 of these flaps. And then I'm going to bend them up to meet the side next to them. So then these will come in here to make a kind of milk carton box. So then I'm going to use my hole punch just to punch a hole through either side of this piece here. Now I've got a 1/8 inch hole punch. If you've got a slightly bigger one, I would use that. I don't, so that's why I'm using this 1/8 inch one. And then I'm just doing another one at the other end. So then I've got this. And then I'm going to thread through a bit of ribbon to hold it together. You could use twine, you could use ribbon, whatever you've got on hand. If you're doing these for like table favours, then it's a good way to use up some little scraps of bits that you've got left. I'm just going to tie that into a little bow. Then we've got this cute little box, but then I want to decorate that. So I'm going to take 2 of these crumb cake houses that we've got left over from the last project. And then I'm going to back those in white cardstock. So I just want to draw around the edge. And luckily I've got 3 of these, so I can use one as a template and not worry that I've got green pin mark on it. So I'm going to cut these out just inside these pen lines. So then I can glue the crumb cake houses onto the white outlines. And then I'm just going to glue some of these red bits on. So I'm going to glue the little bits into the windows. And you can see I've just cut this bit out of some scrap because I'm not going to use the outline. So I just want these middle bits and the heart. So I've just cut it out of a scrap bit so that I just get the bits I want and I'm not using up too much nice paper. Now I'm also just going to take a couple of those same red gemstones that we used for the last card and just put a couple of those as door handles. These would actually make really cool advent boxes as well if you make advent calendars with little small presents in and little chocolates in. They're really nice and you could use them year after year, just keep opening and closing them. So then I'm going to just glue these onto these end panels. And this is why I wasn't bothered about that extra score line that I put on the side because it's going to be covered with this. So I'm just making sure that the bottom lines up with the bottom of my box so that it stands up nicely. And there's a really cute little box. And like I say, even though it's small, you could use it for loads of little things. Advent calendars, for small gifts, for table favours. It's really nice. So let's bring in my other projects. So there are my 3 projects completed. I'd love to know which is your favourite. Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's projects, I'd really appreciate you clicking like below. You can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I've got a new video available. All of the supplies that I've used for today's project are listed in the description below. You can also find a link to my blog where you can find a picture supply list if that helps you find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.